Peace and blessings, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. If you can hear my voice, go ahead and drop a one in the chat for me. All right. We are waiting on about 15, 15, 16 more people, and we'll kind of get started. But we're not going to wait too long. So we're going to give it about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we're just going to hop on in. But for the purposes of this recording, I do want to advise that for the people that are not on here, because it is quite a few, this is being recorded and it will be sent within 24 to 48 hours of this class being completed. And so everyone will receive a copy of this recording for those who are on and those who are not on this call. Right, so we'll be beginning in about two minutes, just waiting for a few more people to come in, but we'll be getting started pretty promptly tonight. Actually, for the purposes of time, we're going to actually go ahead and get started now. So I do advise that you all have a copy of the application for those of you that are on this call. That you do have a copy of the application with you, because we will be going through the process to completing it throughout this call, right? So we will begin. And again, for those who are now on this call, for the purposes of this recording, it will be sent to everyone at the conclusion of this class, right? So as everyone knows, this is the class on going in and correcting your status, which is primarily done through the passport process, right? And if you have any questions throughout this course, just let me know and drop it in the chat, right? This is the third class of this kind. The last class was held in December. There were two sessions, and this is the final session of the passport series, right? So I do hope that you all will pay very, very close attention and take very careful notes as well, right? Everything begins with citizenship and nationality, right? So we're going to go in and break down what it means to be a citizen, what it means to be a national, so that way you know exactly what it is you're going in and doing, and you know why it is you're going in and completing this process, right? There is a case law that you want to look up and that you want to memorize. It just simply states that taxpayers are not de jure state citizens. De jure simply means in the republic, and we'll discuss that in great detail throughout this call, right? The term resident and citizen of the United States is distinguished from a citizen of any one of the several states, in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. And of course, we'll talk about that distinct distinct definition as well, right? And as you can see in the above, there are two national governments, the de jure national government and the democratic government, both of which are still in existence as of today, right? The term national means a person on permanent allegiance to a state, right? So every one of us is a national. We're going to talk about how we gave up that right at birth, but at birth, everyone is a national, and everyone is still a national as of today. But you have to go in and update that status on paper, right? right? It is important to note because as we discussed, right, when you update your status and you have these different mechanisms in place, right, it makes it easier for you to go in and discharge debt. It makes it easier for you to go in and discharge any tax obligations, right? Simply because those are reserved for federal citizens, right? And we're going to show how you can prove that. Okay. So I do believe that this aspect is very important for us to know exactly how we were converted at birth into federal citizens, right? In order for the government to conduct this change and to conduct attacks on the natural man or the natural woman, they had to create some sort of contract. The contract is known as the Social Security number, right? In the early 1930s, the government created the Social Security Administration. They then created 10 separate districts. These districts are defined in the federal area, which covered all several states, right? So we're going to actually go in and look at this definition, okay? Because simply what they're stating is that they had to go into each one of the 50 states, right, and create some sort of federal government so they can control the citizens within that state, right? And this is the way that they went in and got that process done, right? So if we go under Title 4, Section 110, under definitions, it defines what a federal area is. It says a federal area is any land, premise held or acquired for the use of the United States, which is located within the exterior boundaries of any state, and it shall be deemed a federal area within that state, right? So essentially, what it is saying is that within each of the 50 states, you have federal areas within the state that the government mandates. However, if you are a citizen, they automatically consider you within that federal area, right? Another way we can look at this is by going through the Constitution, right? Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, it talks about those federal areas: forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings, right? So when we go in there and we talk about foreclosure being illegal, foreclosure is illegal because foreclosure can only take place in the federal area, right? And the federal area is an exterior boundary of that state, okay? And the exterior boundary defined is a fort, a magazine, an arsenal, a dockyard, and other needful buildings, right? So this is the main reason why it's critical to know exactly where these things are, okay? Title 8, U.S. Code 1401, nationals and citizens of the United States at birth, right? This is what this is what we are. This is what they codified us as, nationals and citizens at birth, right? However, our objective is to go from a 1401 to a 1408, which is a national but not a citizen of the United States, right? So in order for the government to go in and to have control over its citizens, right, it had to go in and create this federal area, right? And the federal area was created by way of the Social Security District. This is why when we go in, as you'll see on the application, we put certain things in brackets, like the zip code, for example, because once we go in and we put the zip code in brackets, as you will see, that removes yourself from that federal jurisdiction, right? It's not a requirement to list a zip code on any document. However, should they require you list a 5-digit zip code, 12345, you always make sure that to prevent yourself from being within that federal area, you put that zip code in brackets, right? So as it states in 1939, the federal government instituted the Public Salary Tax Act, which is a municipal law of the District of Columbia for taxing all government employees and those who live and work in any federal area, right? There is another way that they show or that they can prove that we are federal employees, right? And it's by the use of Federal Reserve notes, okay? 12 USC 411, which are the dollars in your wallet. Federal Reserve notes to be issued at the discretion of the Board of Governors, right? For the purpose of making advances to Federal Reserve banks through Federal Reserve agents, right? So if you're using those Federal Reserve notes or those dollar bills in your wallet and they're not properly redeemed, right? They shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at the Treasury, right? Then you're considered a federal agent, right? And as a result, that is how they are able to tax you. For example, because you are quote unquote within that federal area, right? They only govern that 10 square mile radius of the District of Columbia and the exterior boundaries of the state as it's listed in 4 USC 110. And those exterior areas are listed in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution, right? So you wanna make sure that as you go in, you keep that in mind, right? As we go in and complete this process, you keep that in mind, the difference between state nationals and federal citizens, right? The term state includes any territory or possession of the United States. And this is the definition that we just went in to go and look at. But the reason why 4 USC 110 is critical is because typically once you go in and you update your status, right? So you convert yourself from a citizen to a national, then you're not subject to a lot of these things that they do to citizens, like foreclosures, repossessions, for example, tax delinquencies. So this is a full-on process. Once you go in and you correctly and you properly update your status, there is more that you have to do to ensure that you are receiving your proper and full benefits of being a state national, right? And this simply talks about the taxing of federal areas. So again, if you're not restricting your zip code, if your status is not updated, if you're not leading off with your status in court, any court cases, any court documents, then you're considered within that federal area subject to taxation, right? As you will see, and as you will continue to research, which is what I will hope you do after this class, right? Is that you will see everything about the government converting a private man or a private woman to a citizen involves a tax. Since there is no real money in circulation because this is a bankrupt government, right? So we want to keep those things in mind, irrespective of what the tax is called. If its purpose is to produce revenue, it is an income tax or a receipt tax under the Buck Act. right? Again, a federal area can include a Social Security area designated by the administration, right? Public housing that has federal funding, a home that has a Federal Reserve loan. This is why we introduced those topics about rescinding your transactions, because all of this constitutes a lack of full disclosure, right? These federal areas are attached to anyone who has personal contact with the federal or state government or who has a social security number with them. So the objectives, and as most of you that are on this call and that are not on this call, right, have constantly asked or inquired about going in and rescinding your social security number once your status is updated. Now you will see most people out there, if you follow this type of information, they are proponents or they recommend you go in and you give your social security number back to the government. So essentially rescinding your social security number. Now, I don't recommend you do that because you want to go in and you want to control everything, right? You don't want to go in and give it back to the government to lose all of your benefits, right? Because everything out here is for you, from social security to food stamps to free health insurance, all of that is reserved for you. So what you want to do is, and as we will discuss, once you go in and you properly update your status through your passport process, right? They will not provide you with any sort of green card. You won't see any sort of distinction on your passport, right? The information and documents that you request after your passport has been approved is your proof of nationality. That is what you send over to the Social Security Administration to update your Social Security number, right? Typically, that you can go in and pull the Social Security application up online, and let's see, you can go in and pull this application up online, all right? Now, this is important to note. This is important to note. The form that you're going to go in and complete, once you go in, and I will reiterate this, but once your application for your passport is complete and you've requested that application back from the State Department and they return the application back with that gold seal, that is your proof of nationality, and you make copies of that and you attach that as proof of your nationality to this application when sending it off to the Social Security Administration. This is a form for foreign nationals, right? Evidence of identity, that will be your new passport, right? In general, you can go in and provide your birth certificate that proves that you are a national of the state in which you were born, right? And the evidence is that certificate of citizenship, right? Now, while we're talking about the certificate of citizenship, let's go down and look at the application, right? When you see citizenship, you never select U.S. citizen. So when you're updating this application, you're not selecting U.S. citizen, right? You're selecting other, right? Where your response is voluntary, do not enter any information, right? where your response is voluntary, do not enter any